In this video, we want to write the function and also use the functions available in the Google Places API to get the autocomplete data. So if I go to my search page right here, when I type a city, then it's going to give a drop down with autocomplete items. Now, to get started with this, first let's go into our search.html file. So inside the search.html file, right inside here for the Eon-search bar, after the placeholder or before the placeholder, whichever one you want, you can add an NGModel. So NGModel, I'll set it equal to, I'll set it in this case autocomplete dot city. Then the next thing is I'll add an event called key up. So this event, the function we are going to add, will be fired once the user types or hits enter or lifts the mouse from the input field. So, and the function is going to be get city name. So we add this NGModel. This is going to give us access to the inputs that will be added into this Eon search bar. Then we are using this key up event and we are passing in this get city name. Now this method will be fired or called when we this key up or when the user removes the mouse from the input field and hits enter. So now that we have this, we need to go into our search.ts file. Right here at the top, the first thing we need to do is let's declare a variable, a global variable called Google. I'll set it to type any. Now, because right here, if you look, there is no where we can get the Google variable to use. So we need to declare a global variable out here. Then the next thing is, let me bring this down. I'm going to create some variables inside our class. Now the first one is going to be location items. It's going to be an array. Then the next is going to be autocomplete, and that is what we have right here. So autocomplete is going to be an object that will contain this property city. But now I will just set it to any. So autocomplete of type any. If you like, you can initialize it to an object. Then I want to add location service, and it's going to be of type any as well. So we have this location items. Now inside this location items, that's where we are going to push all of the autocomplete values that will be returned. Then autocomplete here, it's what we are using inside this NGModel. Then the location service, we're going to use it to get a method. So inside our constructor, the first thing we're going to do inside the constructor is set this dot location service, and I'll set it equal to new google.maps.places.autocomplete service. So this is a method available from the Google autocomplete or places API. So we set this location service equal to new google.maps.places.autocomplete service. Now, if we don't add this declaration right here, we are going to get an error saying this variable Google is not defined. Then the next thing is I can set this.autocomplete. I'll set it to an array or an object, and the object is going to contain property city, which is going to be empty. Right now, I'll take out this Eon view did load. We are not going to use it at this moment. So inside the constructor, I declare this inside the location service. Then I initialize this autocomplete value, which is an object with value city set equal to empty. Now I need to create this function right here. So down, I'll create this function. what I want to do is to perform a check if this .autocomplete.city is empty. So if this .autocomplete.city is equal to empty, then I'm going to set this .location items equal to an empty array. Then I'll add return. So if this .autocomplete.city is equal to empty, then we set the location items equal to an empty array and we hit return. So it's not going to go further. Now the next thing I need to do after this is outside here, I'll declare a variable called self. So let's self equal to this. Now this self is gives us access to the Windows object. Now this is for local object while self is for Windows object. Now we are using this because the method we want to call this self on, it's a function inside an object. So if you want to get access to a function inside an object in JavaScript, you can't use this keyword. You need to set it equal to a variable. That is why we are setting this, or let self equal to this. So this will give us access to whatever is outside of the function. So then we want to declare another object called config. Inside we pass into properties the types. The first is going to be types, which is geocode. Now this is coming from the API. If you go through the API documentation, you're going to see the types that are available. Other types that are available, establishments, regions as well. So we are setting this to geocode. Then the next thing is the input. The input is going to be this .autocomplete.city. So this value will be gotten from here because we are using this NGModel. So the input is this .autocomplete.city. Now the next thing I want to do is to call this .location service .getPlacePredictions. So this .location .getPlacePredictions. Inside I'll pass in the config, which is what I have here because this is a local variable. I don't need to use this. Then inside I can pass in predictions and status. So inside this getPlacePredictions method, I'll pass in this config, which is this local variable right here, which is this object which contains types and inputs. Then in the callback function with parameters, predictions and status. Now the next thing is inside here, I'll say self.location items. Change this to self. I will initialize it here, equals to an empty array as well. Then let me do a console.log first. Console.log predictions. So if I go to the browser now, refresh the page, we are going to get some results. So we'll see what is contained in the results. So right here, I can just go ahead, click Tallinn, it's going to be displayed. Then if I click add city, then watch what is going to happen if I search for a city. You can see if I open the array, we have some objects, and the object contains the description, the ID, the matched substrings. You can see we have the place ID, the reference, structure formatting. Here we also have terms, some other values. We have the types, locality, political, geocode. So you can see what we need to do to make things much more easier. We can just use this description. But if you want to go further, you want to get maybe just the matched text, whatever you type in here, instead of adding the country name, you can just go into structured_formatting main_test, then you get the value. So we are going to push this description value into our array. So since predictions is an array, we say predictions.forEach. Predictions.forEach. I can change this to say maybe prediction. Then down here, I'm going to say self.localItems.push. Then I'll push in prediction into the array rather than predictions. So we saw here that predictions is an array which contains some objects. So what I'm doing here, I'll loop through the predictions array, and then every object will be pushed into this location items. So right now, if I save this, if I go ahead and do a console.log here, .log prediction. So I'll save, go to the browser, right here, I'll clear this so we can type something and we are going to see the autocomplete results here. Here we are getting this error. Let's just refresh. It says reference error, Google is not defined. We refresh the page, or I can just come back here. Let me just come back here and maybe change something, then go back, hit refresh. So right here, I'll go to the search page and I'll type. As you can see, the different predictions are being returned. So all of these predictions are pushed into the local or location items. So right here you can see them. What we are going to do is just for us to get the values, display them right here. We're going to do that in the next video.